Ladies and gentlemen, now that we've broken the ice, I think it's time to formally, humbly introduce myself to you. So my name is Avi Wemkorwana, and some of you, mostly who know me from corporate, will be knowledge. Today I decided, you know what, let me just take a stand. Let me just introduce myself. I'll introduce myself and then I'll come to this podcast, the starting of this podcast. So I was born in a small town called Tsomo in the Eastern Cape, in a village called Tsochana. In terms of upbringing, I started formal school in grade 1 actually. So I didn't have formal education before grade 1 or even formal nursery or reception. There was no such where I came from. So we went to this other old lady who took care of us. It's more like a daycare kind of a situation. Obviously she would teach us what she knows there and there, but it was not like a formal education. I mean, big ups to her. She played a role. And I then went to start school, and I'll share the picture of where I started school in grade 1, what others will know as year 1. And then I went to formerly primary school, grade 2 and 3, and we were going to mud houses. They are no longer there right now. And then we went to the formal school, which I think was better. And from grade 4 to then grade 9, that's where we were going to school. The upbringing was not too bad. I think if I look back now, I would easily categorize myself as having been below the poverty line. That means I was falling as part of people who can be categorized as being in poverty. Poverty, in my own opinion, I mean, one can say different things. But where people were struggling, and I was fairly part of them, but I still don't consider myself in terms of poverty in what I would say basic needs with the standards of the time. It's not long ago. I believe I'm not too old. But I think at that time, what we knew as basic needs were things like food, water, and shelter, as an example. I guess we knew that education was important, as Nelson Mandela would emphasize that education is the most powerful tool that can be used to change the world. I guess our parents knew that there was power in education, although they themselves didn't get the education, and in some cases they got what was categorized as Bantu education, and that means the education of lower standard from what is there. And people who know the history of South Africa will know better in terms of what it meant. Just to give a background, there was an education customized for black-skinned people or brown-skinned people, depending on how you categorize it, or what they call Bantu child. And I mean, there were different arguments where Fairwood, one of the guys who was an apartheid architect, said, what's the use of teaching a Bantu child mathematics when they cannot use it in practice? And this was the way of modeling the labor, basically. I won't go to that today. I'm still coming to myself. I go up to grade 9 in the primary school, obviously. I come from a family fought with myself being the last born. When I finished grade 9, the reason I'm giving that context again is that when I finished grade 9, I now have to go to grade 10, what we categorize as high school at that time, or at least senior secondary. I've had to choose modules at that point, or subjects as we know them. But because the three of my siblings, because I'm the last born, they went to a stream of maths and science. I think one of them was close to making something of it. I think the two were just not successful in terms of education. And then it's myself now, I have to choose the subjects. Obviously, what I knew and what I was comfortable with was what my siblings have already chosen, which was maths and science. And agricultural science was where I come from, the huge amount of land. So we grew up in an environment where there's livestock, where there's farming at low scale farming. Everything was there at home at low scale. So hence why obviously we would be comfortable with agricultural sciences. Okay, I go to high school, I do my 3 years. This is now grade 10, 11, and 12 in South African education system. When I finish my matric, which is grade 12, which I would like to believe in some British education is advanced levels or A levels, depending if one wants to align, I think is that. And somebody can correct me, I may be incorrect, because there's ordinary levels, so O levels, and there's advanced level, which is A level. So I guess it's A levels, grade 12, which is matric. When I finish that, now I have to go to uni, or I have to go to the university, basically. At that time, I was not exposed to the kind of information that would help me choose any course. I was not sure of what course I want to do. I was not sure of what I want to make of myself in terms of what profession do I follow. And this is why when I categorize information poverty, for me, what I call information poverty, I was not exposed. I'd never seen a university with my eyes. I'd never touched a computer. I had no internet. We had no devices. So life was like that. It was difficult, even at school. I mean, we went to a public school. Public school in South Africa, schools funded by the government, basically. Because these names, depending on where you are or which country you are, can be changed. So it was difficult. Even the textbooks, we used to share the textbooks. It was very, very difficult, very difficult. If I look at today's terms or judge using today's terms or today's standards, basically. So now I passed my matric. Here I am. I don't know what I will go to university and do. Never been to the university. It is a scary concept. I've had to take a gap year and just sit, basically. My father used to work in the mines. So I moved from the Eastern Cape to Johannesburg. I think Johannesburg is an economic hub of South Africa. I moved to Johannesburg. In this video, you'll see that I try to cover both South Africans, of which they will know this information easily. But in some cases, there will be people around the world who watch these videos, and they should be able to relate to what I'm talking to or what I'm talking about. So just be patient with me when I try to explain some concepts that may seem obvious to yourself. So I now moved to Johannesburg and I stayed a gap year, not studying, not in any kind of formal education. Within the year, my father registered me in a course for just computers so I could just get used to computers because I had never touched a computer. And then now I go and learn this 4 months computer literacy course and finish it. While there, I managed to apply for the university. And I was accepted. I was accepted in the University of Johannesburg, and now called the Great University of Johannesburg. So I then start my year, the year after basically, because I had taken gap year. The year after, I start my university. I happened when I went to, there was a lady that I went to church with, and she said, you know what, there's somebody who's going to come and share the information. While we're in that gap year, there's somebody who's going to come and share the information with us, with her, so I can come along and just come listen. I went there, listened to the guy sharing information about the University of Johannesburg. I got interested, and I asked them that when they went to fetch the form, when the lady went to fetch the forms, if she can please just get me a form so I can also fill a form. And they did that process, and as I said, I was accepted. I'm just taking a step back a bit. I was accepted at the university. Now, I don't have funding, and that's a year that my father stopped working, but at least he had money for me to register. I then had to come and register to start the first year, but try to pursue the public funds, basically, what's called NSFAS. In South Africa, it's like your government funding, basically. So I applied for that in the year, and I was finally approved by it. But in that time, my father was paying for my accommodation, registration, food, books. So everything was covered by him at that time. Now I continue with my studies. I finished my first year. I got what they said was merit bursary at UJ. If you are performing at a certain level, depending on where you are, they would give you some merit bursary. Not enough, but at least it reduces the cost. In the second year, I got what was categorized as national scarce skills. Thank you to the ANC for that. And we need to give credit where it's due. I'm not sure if that is, I think that is still the national scarce skills bursary. Basically, it would be used to convert NSFAS, which is a loan. I think, but it's 60-40 loan and bursary. But that national skills bursary would just convert everything into bursary. I did that, and then I attended a 3-year course. I go to the final year. And NSFAS at that time, thank you to Jacob Zuma, we give credit where it's due. He made final year to be free for NSFAS students. Again, so that means I studied for free for the final year. Now, we continue in that path. How was the university for me? I think the university was good, difficult, because there was a lot of things that I had to catch up on. A lot of things I didn't know. I was not exposed in a new big city, and in terms of education itself. First time really working on computers. Won't say anything about programming. Get into a class. It was a first class. This is the first year. It was the first class I get there. They changed the class. University is so big that I get lost. I don't get to class. I don't get the introductory class. So I don't get to be introduced to what we're going to do. Then the next thing, we're doing practicals, and I keep getting zeros because I have no clue of what we're doing. and it just didn't make sense. It's my first time formally using a computer. Secondly, now no longer I'm still not comfortable 100% with English, though I studied with English basically. I studied in English, but in terms of just maybe speaking, communicating in English, it's not that we're not that fluent because of where I come from. Already now we're changing a language to programming languages now, where it just becomes very, very difficult, very difficult. But in all that, I was doing well in studies. Studied hard, very hard. I studied hard. And I guess I got good grades as well. So while we're doing final year now, we're doing project, organizations used to send the vacancies or whatever to the school. I come across one email which was saying the students will be trained on Saturday and they'll get this X amount of money. They'll do that October and November. This is my final year. October and November. Final year of undergraduate, obviously. They will get X for the Saturdays that they'll be trained, and during the week they can go for work experience. I decided to apply for that, and luckily I was chosen. I went there to do October, November, and therefore I was given a 6-month contract for training contract. I decided, you know what, because of the state I was, at home, there's no one who's going to support us going forward. And as I said, my dad had stopped working at that time. So I had to take a stance and say, you know what, I have to just go work and see what happens after. So I worked for 6 months as a trainee or a junior consultant in a global company. Maybe I won't mention it right now, but I have a lot of respect for it. A lot of respect. They contributed much in my professional career. A lot I owe to them. So they take me through, 10 of us, they train us. In that, the company at that time was not purely transformed, so it was through this process of transformation. So we were one of the group of black or brown learners or juniors that were brought through, first batch, as part of transformation. So 9 black guys and 1 South African Indian. In South Africa, we're a rainbow nation. We have African or black, how you categorize it, to me, it doesn't mean anything. It still means the person with the skin I have, and then you'll have Indian, you'll have the mixed race which is colored, you'll have the white people, and then you have the Afrikaners, white being English, and then the Afrikaners. So to me, that, it's just who we are. I'm very proud of it. I don't find any kind of offense. Black or brown or African, still the same thing to me. So they took 9 of us, black people, and then 1 Indian guy. And it was part of BEE policy. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I want to touch on the BEE policy. Now, obviously, BEE, sometimes when people look at BEE, they think, okay, it's people not taken on merit. Definitely, I was taken on merit. That's why even today, it doesn't matter you black, white, green, or yellow. If we're competing in something, I don't care. I compete with my capabilities. I am highlighting that. But obviously, it was an entry point to get an opportunity. Definitely a very important step or entry point. The reason I'm highlighting that is so that people know that when we're talking BEE and we're talking its failures, and I'm one of those people who say the implementation of BEE, the majority or bigger part of it is a complete flop, it's a failure. But I just want to highlight that it did make a difference to some people's lives, including myself. I don't know what that or how my career would have turned out had it not because of that. And not because I'm incompetent. I'm not. Those who work with me know me very well. I'm not incompetent. But the policy contributed. I wanted to just highlight that. So I finished, then I started working. I said, okay, now after 6 months, I get permanent. I'm working in a global company, making a difference. I work with very smart people, very supportive people, very open-minded people, very supportive, as I said, very supportive. And obviously there were dynamics that I wish maybe many companies would have understood at that time. And this is things like, okay, if I wake up from an environment I come from, I don't have a car, I don't have this, And sometimes you are expected to be in certain clients at certain times and all those. At that time, I'm not sure now, maybe they understand better because it were the first batch anyway. I wish they understood it better, but they were very supportive. They treated us, you know what, I cannot downplay the impact or the change. Training a person who come from those circumstances, yes, they would have gone through the university, they have been exposed, and I would like to believe is capable team of juniors. The people I started working with were very capable. They were very capable. We were taken from university with good grades. They were very capable. But obviously in terms of exposure, in terms of training them, understanding corporate. Corporate is completely different. You've never had a dad, an uncle, an aunt who went to corporate. You don't even know what is what. Right, it's another level of schooling. But the good thing is, we then did well, So now we're permanent, and then I started working, placed in a lot of banks in South Africa and placed in banks across Africa. And then in some cases I've worked, but now the cloud was there. I now had to work on managed services, for example, for international clients. I then realized my potential. I think, just take a step back, I did realize a bit of my potential when I was in the university, that, you know what, I can actually really compete. I can really compete. But when I got to that company, working with global minds, people across the globe, I realized, you know what, I can actually compete globally. I can compete globally. And I started to have this interest of just going abroad and see how things are. And it so happened that along the way I met my wife and we get married, we have a child, and she got an opportunity to come to the UK. Get an opportunity to go to the UK, she goes, I'm in South Africa with a child for a year, and then I get a job that eventually transfers me. It was a global a company that exists in South Africa, that exists in the UK. It didn't matter where I was, so I could just move around the way I wanted to. And I think that was very, very important. Also there, I won't mention the company name, but I spoke to actually the CEO, and you know what, he was a very sweet guy. So I've worked for multiple companies in South Africa as well. But before I came to this one, and then I worked for this one, and then eventually I come to the UK. And then I worked in the UK, worked in London, and it was not easy. I think the first 2 years was really not easy. A lot of things happening in the UK, and obviously you get to the UK, you're like, certain things are not what you thought they are. Certain things are definitely what you thought of London. I think the work culture for me, the work environment, London itself was what I thought of London. And then you go out of London, obviously in outskirts, and well, it's not what I thought of the UK. But in terms of just the quality of life, I mean, there are certain things that, depending on how you define the quality of life, a disappointment. But there are certain things like safety for me. I know recently people say this in London, this is happening. I haven't seen it. And for me, it's like it's non-existent, basically. Yes, it may be there. It's impacting those people. It's impacting relatively safer than South Africa, way safer than South Africa. So, and obviously, how do I find London, or how do I find the UK was difficult the first time. Cold, very cold, very cold. I was not used to that. Very cold. And actually, everything needs to be planned. It's like you're in the workplace while you're at home, basically. You need to plan, okay? Whereas in South Africa, you just get up and you just go wherever you want to go, drive a car, go to Chisanyama, go to all these places. Here, it's like you would be indoors and it's cold. I mean, it's one thing. I got here in Jan when it was very cold. And then I continue to work. I changed companies and work for a bank that's here. I enjoyed my time here. And then what happened is I got an opportunity to go to Qatar in the Middle East, obviously with everyone saying everything in terms of how the Middle East is, everything. For me, it sparked interest. I wanted to go see it for myself. And I knew that if it was not conducive for myself and my family, then I'd have to come back to the UK or go to South Africa. And yes, I went there. I was not there for a very long time. I quickly realized that for me, going forward, it's not going to be a conducive environment for certain reasons for me to be there. Beautiful countries, very beautiful. Qatar, Dubai, very beautiful. Qatar, UAE, those two that I've been, and they're very beautiful. But I realized that I wouldn't be there for a long time for certain reasons at that time. I decided to come back to the UK again. Came back to the UK, started working again in London. So I'm still in the UK. As I record this video, this is my 4th year in the UK. I'm counting towards the 4th year. I'm hoping in the near future I would be permanent resident and eventually be a dual citizen. Now, coming into the podcast, one, I've had to say what I said about the UK so that you realize in any way, there's nowhere where I'm bashing the UK. The only thing that is important for me to highlight is I love South Africa. I love South Africa. I'm an African. I am a South African. I love South Africa. Wherever I go, coming to the UK or traveling to other countries, there's in my own opinion, there's no place like South Africa to me. And when I have conversations with the guys, they will say everyone, home is like that. Obviously, there's an advantage of being home. But I also do feel there's just something deep about South Africa. You know, when I land in African soil, I can feel it. Before anyone say anything, I guess because it's the land of our forefathers. But there's just something rooted in South Africa that I cannot replace. I love this flag. See this flag here? I love this flag. I love South Africa. And it pains me the amount of the potential that South Africa has over a lot of countries that seem in perceived value to be better than South Africa. South Africa has more potential than a lot of countries in many different ways. South Africa is very dynamic in many different ways. Natural beauty, the resources, natural resources, the people, the food. There's absolutely nothing you can replace about South Africa, except you come to issues that I think are behavioral issues. And there is a systemic impact to some of the issues we have. But in some cases, it's just us not opening up or looking at life the way it is and say, can we fight? Can we all collectively fight for the flag? Excuse me. One of the problems that happened in South Africa was that there was an apartheid, which was racial segregation that happened. And obviously there was a fighting of human rights, fighting of economic inclusion, and all fights about economic inclusion, which is still there, fight of human rights and all that. And to a degree, the people who fought together with their families, the people who fought maybe feel like the country owes them, which it does, or which it did. But I think it gets to the point where you know what, you've gotten what you had to get, and thank you for fighting for the country. And you managed to put the country somewhere. But it cannot be that it will continue to be like that forever, and we'll continue to listen to the people now trying to run the country just because I was in prison, I was in Robben Island. No. But in any case, because that's a foundation of our politics, and obviously the foundation of our politics is based on socialism, Africans, they have what we call Ubuntu. I think it was there, still there in somewhat, I will explain. And this simply means you are because I am because you are. That means we need each other basically to survive, and we need to recognize that and appreciate it and share whatever we have. That's where we came from as Africans, no longer as deeply there as it was before. People will pretend and people will use that to leverage of raping people their own belongings basically in one way or another. So we came from those principles, and now people use that socialism to say, you know what, we care for our people, and our people being categorized as black people. In most cases, when they say our people. Now, I'm at the point where I realized that, you know what, yes, as black people, we were previously disadvantaged and in somewhat a lot still economically disadvantaged. But we cannot continue like this. The country is going down for everyone. It's not color specific or not race specific. Country is going down for everyone. And, you know, we complain about these issues, including myself. I complain about the issue of corruption, education, this and that, the governance, mostly the governance and mostly the leadership. So I've gotten to the point where I say, I've complained so much. I continue to complain. I make no difference. The country is going down. What needs to be done? What do I do? Do I continue blaming other people? Do I join the crew? I mean, the other people are talking. Others are talking for themselves, trying to represent themselves, trying to enrich themselves, going out there in the world to try and paint South Africa as this country so they themselves can benefit. Others go out there in the world to try and rewrite history and discuss things that are untrue and try to reflect South Africa in a certain way so they can benefit themselves and their minority groups. Or in some cases, the majority groups. People who say black people are like this, like this, like this. They care not about black people. They don't care about black people. Some of them, they're black, they don't care about black people, but they will use that race card. Then you'll have white people who go there and say South Africa is like this, there's white genocide, which is untrue. South Africa has crime problem. It's white genocide, there's this trying to rewrite history so it can benefit them. Which again, it's not correct. It's not good for the country. So I got to the point where I say, you know what? Maybe I should be another voice of solution. I need to sit down with the people that are like-minded, discuss these. In some cases, it will be just me looking at certain issue that I've identified a solution, and I'll try to discuss the solution. In some cases, it will be me engaging somebody, having someone in the podcast, inviting, and we're discussing solutions. It will be me and yourselves, guys, in the comment section discussing solutions to whatever problem that I raise. And obviously I'll be open to problems. So you say there's this problem and I have a solution ABC that I want us to discuss one day, or I want you to discuss one day. I'll go through it, I'll read if I need to read, I'll do my homework, and I'll come and discuss it. Hence why there's this Voice of Solutions South Africa podcast. We are focusing on solutions, no longer just discussing problems. But obviously for you to discuss a solution, you must give a context of problems. And that is very much important for me to highlight. That's why I'll start by giving this is the problem and give the context and try to explain it in simplest form so that everybody understands the problem. Because some of the issues is jumping into solution. When you are jumping alone, not everyone understands the problem. So I'll have to explain the problem to the core, and then I'll start explaining the solution and what I think is the proposed solution. And my solutions won't always be these solutions. There will be someone listening to me, discussing with me in the comment section who has better solutions, and I'm open for that. So today I just thought, you know what, I need to just discuss, introduce myself, and I hope you now understand me better. Introduce myself as this son from a family of 4, a husband and a father to my beautiful daughter. And here I am, trying to change South Africa, trying to fight for this flag. And I invite you guys, I invite everyone for us to sit and discuss solutions. I know there's a national dialogue coming, and I'm contributing to that up front, even to say, you know what, let's discuss this, let's be ready. By the time you having your input somewhere, it must be that you've been briefed, you've discussed this thing, we went back and forth, we viewed this thing in different angles. It's all about this flag. It's all about South Africa. We all fight for South Africa. And those who love with South Africa, please come with me. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on the notification and like the video and grow the platform together. Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to this. I really appreciate it.